Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special Dion's Daily Dose. I am here with my friend Shawn. There he is.
Hello.
So this is actually our 300th episode that we have uploaded. It's not the 300th episode that I've made, but it's the 300th episode that was uploaded to Spotify, Pandora, all these streaming platforms. So I think it deserves a little bit of something special, something a little different. Shawn had a phenomenal idea, and that was to kind of review, based on our current knowledge of how the deep state, how wide and deep the deep state actually is, the swamp, call it whatever you want, the unelected bureaucrats that are actually deciding things. Based on our knowledge of that nowadays, how has the things that, and there were a lot, there's a lot of links. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. But how does our perception of those change based on the added information that, I don't know about you, like I knew that the swamp was bad, but I had no idea it was as bad as it actually is. Multiple, like we can essentially say, at least from my opinion, we can essentially say that our entire government was compromised.
Everybody was against Trump. Yeah. And standing in his way. Yeah.
Yeah. And more than that, we constantly had leaks from the White House. We constantly had multiple so-called reporters. Remember the unnamed source within the Trump administration, or an anonymous source familiar with. That was the big thing, right? So we're just going to run down. I'm going to show you guys. When I say we have a lot, I mean there's a lot. So we're not going to be able to dig into every story. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. We don't want that. But what I think would be good is to kind of run down and show you guys. Like this is literally 1/3, because there are 3 that he sent me, 3 emails. This is a third. So again, and I love this quote. Thank you for including this quote, Shawn. Quote, "You know what we ought to do? Let's change the name Tomahawk missile to the Obama class. Let's name some cruise missiles and drones after Obama, because Obama loved killing people with drones." Rush Limbaugh, April 10th, 2017, and he's accurate. Yeah. I mean, he is accurate on that. But let me show you this look. This is one of 3
from my archive.
Yeah, from his archive. So we're not going to be able to dig into everything. But I think what we should do is just kind of run down through them, and then there are several that I believe deserve much deeper analysis. But let's just quickly. Suspected U.S. drone strike kills 3 alleged Al-Qaeda members in Yemen. A first for Trump. Now, why is this interesting? Well, for one, they were actually very, very concerned that Trump was going to continue the Obama legacy of droning people constantly. As a matter of fact, so here it says here, the 2 Saturday strikes killed you don't know how hard it is for me to actually say. Abu Ani el-Abi. You know how bad I wanted to call him Abu Anis. An area field commander and 2 others, they said, speaking on condition of anonymity, because they were not authorized to release the information to journalists. How many times have we seen that?
A lot.
Yeah. This was actually January 22nd, 2017. So this was very shortly after his inauguration. Boom. Drone strikes. So it says here, where is it? basically they're talking about, okay, here it is. U.S. intelligence officials have said as many as 117 civilians had been killed in drone and other counter-terror attacks in Pakistan, Yemen, and elsewhere during Obama's presidency. Human rights and other groups criticized Obama presidency. They also worried that President Trump will more aggressively conduct drone strikes, which are subject to little oversight from Congress or the judiciary. He didn't.
Not really, no.
He did not. Put it this way.
He did use it a little bit.
He used them, but not near with the fervor and devotion from the Obama administration. I mean, they, like it said, 117 civilians died during all these drone attacks. So, yeah. Trump did not even come close to using drones as much as Obama did. So that was one takeaway. But moving on, Trump nominates both a critic and an insider to Federal Reserve board seats. Now, what were you able to discover? Because you looked up basically the current situation.
I
board.
should have. I don't remember. I never got the.
You didn't get the accurate information for currently. Okay, that's fine. So interestingly enough, he had replaced Janet Yellen.
Yep.
With a couple of other people.
Jermaine Powell.
Yeah. Well, this was for the board.
Yeah, this was not the chair.
Right, not the chair, but something else. And it is, let's see here.
Let me look up the
Judy Shelton and Christopher Waller is what he had. And it was for the board, not the chair. But interestingly enough, Yellen was replaced. Now here she is back. Wonder why that happened. Pulled out of the Open Skies Treaty with Russia. White House orders thousands of U.S. troops withdrawn from Afghanistan and Iraq.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Trump liked to do that a lot. He did that also with the Import-Export Bank.
Okay.
He liked to appoint one person that was opposed to it and one person that supported it, so they could like work together and come up with a solution. That's another reason why I like Trump, was he always wanted to help with creating solutions.
Right. And I think, given what we know now with how bad things are in our government, that was a good way to tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
You appoint one person who's, completely in favor of it, or, like Powell, right? Take Jerome Powell. He was an insider all the way, right? But he also appointed a critic. It's an interesting little the way that he did it. Yeah. And it also helped, in my opinion, to not only temper some of the criticism, right? Because there was a lot, but let's face it, both sides. I mean, you had the rhinos, you had the press, you had everyone against Trump, and really the only people that were willing to speak up about Trump were the citizens of the United States. Most of us love some Trump, man. He's not perfect, and I've talked about this before. Obviously, we'll get into some of the criticisms, but given what we know, I think he did a phenomenal job in the 4 years he was there. Let's
move on.
He got rid of some troops, brought some people home. He signed an executive order to protect fracking. Lifted a ban on funding research in Israeli settlements. Now, that one's interesting. What is that about? Basically, there was a ban on these settlements and the ability for U.S. funds to be funneled there for whatever reason. He decided he didn't want that and got rid of it. I don't look at that as a positive personally. I'm more than a little concerned with how much Trump and those around him seem to love Israel. I don't hate Israel. I don't dislike Israel. But I'm concerned, once again, about outsized influence from other countries, regardless of who that country is. U.S. signs anti-abortion declaration with 32 countries. Trump signs a law. Now, this one I really like, designating 988 as the universal number for National Suicide Hotline starting in 2022. So anywhere, anytime you hit 988 and it will connect you directly to the suicide hotline. I think that's a very positive thing because a lot of times I've known, put it this way, I've known some people very close to me who came very close to choosing that option. And especially pre-Google, it was very hard to have the hotline information at your fingertips, you know? So, and when you're in that frame of mind, 3 digits, man, it works, right? It is an emergency. So I'm down for that. U.S. airstrikes target Taliban fighters advancing on key Afghan city. Israel and Jordan signed a historic airspace agreement. Trump was responsible for that because Israel and Jordan did not get along, not at all. Now, that's one thing I will say, though, as a counterpoint to my earlier issue is with Trump being so pro-Israel, he was able to get a lot done as far as peace in that region.
Yeah,
he really was. So I got to give him that. Trump hosts Israel, UAF, and Bahrain for historic signing. The name of that was?
The Abraham Accords.
Right. And even his detractors, even the ones who hated him, CNN, MSNBC, all these people, had to begrudgingly give him credit on that because that was a big deal. That was a huge thing at the time. And look at now. I mean, just a few years later, the entire region is set to explode. I mean, just absolutely explode. So he was able to accomplish quite a bit. Trump oversees economic deal that includes Kosovo recognizing Israel and Serbia moving embassy to Jerusalem. Speaking of embassies in Jerusalem, Trump declared Israel as the capital, or excuse me, Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and moved our embassy there. Which many presidents had said they were going to do that,
and they never did.
Obama, and they never did. Trump said, okay, let's do it. So Trump administration to purchase 150 million rapid COVID-19 tests. But Trump donates $100,000 of his salary to help, quote, repair and restore monuments damaged during anti-police protests, describing them as an important part of our great American history. There's one other one, but I don't remember the name. But there was one other president who didn't take a salary, who donated every dime that he was paid. I could be wrong, but I think it's like Grover Cleveland. If you want to look it up real quick, that's it, dude. Like, to consistently give away $100,000, like, I don't know, man. And now, granted, Trump allegedly has billions of dollars. What's $100,000? But nonetheless, it is nice to see a president doing that kind of thing. UAE and Israel move to normalize relations as Israel halts planned West Bank annexations.
There's actually 3 presidents.
Oh, there were 3. Okay.
They say Herbert Hoover.
That's Herbert Hoover, right?
And technically John Kennedy.
Technically JFK.
Who donated his paychecks to charity, and then Mr. Trump.
Yep. So he is only the 3rd president.
I didn't know that about Herbert Hoover.
That's who I don't know why I said Cleveland. Herbert Hoover was, well, I knew about him, and they said technically JFK did as well. Trump signed an executive action on COVID economic relief. Boy, that cost us a lot, didn't it?
It did.
Just as a kind of a laugh, Joe Biden, by the way, thinks DNA operated guns exist. So yeah, and this was like back in 2018 or so. Yeah. So Trump administration awarding $35 million in housing grants to human trafficking survivors. So as we see, even at the beginning, Trump was very concerned about the victims of human trafficking. I wonder if that's going to be important later. Trump order aims to curb U.S. agencies' use of foreign workers. What does that mean? That means that these various agencies have a habit of hiring people here on visa or here maybe not so legally to do low-paid work. Now, in my opinion, that is an absolute security risk, but I'm not in charge. But apparently, DJT thought the same. U.S. to withdraw 12,000 troops from Germany in strategic move. At the time, I do believe they were discussing the various contributions to NATO.
Oh, yeah.
And we decided, you guys don't want to pay. It's okay. We'll take these 12,000 troops. We're going to move them over here. And let's see.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how happy you guys are once we move our troops somewhere else. It was shortly after that, I do believe, that Germany and the rest of them said, yeah, maybe we're going to pay a little bit more.
And they did.
They did. Absolutely. Under Trump's watch, America's national debt has increased by $6.6 trillion. Yes. And that's what I mean. Trump was not perfect. There was some stuff that happened, including COVID and the economic recovery therein. Let's face it, there was a lot of money spent. The Trump administration plans to send 150 federal agents to Chicago to help with gun violence. You guys remember that? That was in the Summer of Love.
Yep.
The so-called Summer of Love. And the Trump administration said, well, you guys are having a hell of a time getting your gun problem under control. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send you guys 150 federal agents and they'll help you. And Lightfoot said, no, we don't want those.
Nope.
Yeah, we don't want your help. We got everything under control. And Trump said, all righty then. No problem. We'll pull them back. How's that working out for Chicago?
Not very good.
Yeah. Trump administration imposes sanctions on Russia. Oh, wait. Didn't they say he was Putin's boy?
Yeah, they do. They still claim that.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who still believe that Russia
Which
would
is nuts, dude. Yeah, there are people who still, to this day, swear that they have seen incontrovertible proof that Trump is owned by Russia. When you ask them to tell you, okay, show me this evidence because I'd like to see. Oh, well, it turns out they heard it from like MSDNC or the Clinton News Network or something like that. These so-called reporters have told them so many times. Remember, if you repeat a lie often enough, it will become the truth, right? They can't understand that they've been manipulated. Trump commute sentence. Now, no, this isn't the one, but commute sentence of longtime friend and advisor Roger Stone. How do you feel about that?
They did him dirty, though, Roger Stone.
They did do Roger Stone dirty. But was the answer commuting his sentence? I don't know. Here's the thing, right? We can all look at the various things that Trump did while he was in office and go, yeah, that was a bad idea. Shouldn't have did that. Should have done something else.
This is more of a gray area.
Yeah, but it's easy to look back with hindsight and go, yeah, you did something wrong. It's a lot more difficult when you're in the moment and you're getting pressured from people to say, hey, look, this guy got done dirty. Blah, blah, blah.
And I think Trump did it too, was because Roger Stone was he could have turned on Trump so many times and he was loyal.
I think that you are onto a lot there because if you notice, at least in public, right, with public available things, Roger Stone stayed loyal. We don't know behind the scenes. Nobody can say what he did or didn't do via, you know what I mean? Like himself. I have no idea. I don't have access to his text, or anything. Who knows what he actually did. But what we do know for sure is that they went after Stone with everything they had to try to make Stone turn on Trump.
And he would not do it.
He didn't do it. He said, nope, not going to happen. On the other hand, his douchey attorney, Trump's attorney,
Cohen,
who has been proven a liar time after time, he said, oh, yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll do anything you want.
Yep, that was literally what he said. I will do anything you want in order to not go to jail, but I don't have anything on Trump. That's the transcript from his actual interrogations. And despite that, they still somehow forced him to make up all this stuff about
the Stormy Daniels
thing. The Stormy Daniels thing and the payoff and all this garbage.
I don't believe that for a second.
No. Let's go.
All right, let's move on.
That just for a moment.
Okay.
Do you think that Trump slept with Stormy Daniels?
I do not.
Okay. Why do you think that he didn't?
Because she actually admitted it that nothing ever happened.
As a matter of fact, she said that multiple times, didn't she? I have never once seen any real evidence that Trump did anything with Stormy Daniels. The only thing that's like even leans towards that was some money paid to her? I think so. Seems to be. Yeah, there was some money paid to her. But was that Trump or was that Cohen? Multiple times, Michael Cohen said, I paid that money. Trump didn't know anything about it. Then at the trial, he said, oh, yeah, he did know about it. He's the one who told me to do it. I don't believe it. So we got that. Okay. So Trump admin escalates sanctions on Syria's Assad regime. So interestingly enough, did you guys know if you look up the countries that are not controlled by a central bank, you know where I'm going with
I know where you're going.
Yeah. Syria, Russia. What was the other one? Used to be Libya.
Isn't it still North Korea?
It might, North Korea.
I know. I think Libya has one now.
They do now that they killed Gaddafi. Yeah. Which, convenient, right? Convenient. And there's many, many stories to go along with that. But Trump signs a bipartisan bill to relax small business requirements under the CARES Act. What was the CARES Act?
That was I believe that was the COVID, like to help businesses during the COVID pandemic.
Right. Okay. Yep. Eased some of the policies surrounding the Paycheck Protection Program under the federal coronavirus relief bill. Right. Okay. Suspend Chinese passenger flights to the U.S. Do you guys remember how much heat he took for saying, this virus comes from China? Does anybody else miss how he said China?
Yeah.
I do. But this virus comes from China, so we're going to suspend flights from the country it's coming from. That sounds logical. It sounds like something that a good leader would do.
And the left had a meltdown.
He was excoriated.
I remember that.
Grilled, called a xenophobe, called a racist, obviously they call them all these things before, but they really piled on. As a matter of fact, you guys remember Nancy Pelosi and somebody else made a video saying how basically you need to go mingle with the Chinese. Remember that?
I think it was with Feinstein might have done it with.
I think so. But they said, don't be afraid. Now, these are the very people that turned around and said Trump didn't take the coronavirus seriously.
Yep.
The very people who went on video and told us, go out, live your life. It's nothing to worry about. Trump to sign executive order on social media amid Twitter fervor, whatever. Furor. So what was that all about? It turns out that Trump said, look, these social media companies are censoring people above and beyond what they're allowed to do, what they should be doing. And it turns out Trump was right. It turns out he was right. As a matter of fact, they went so nuts that they even kicked him off of Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Until Elon brought it back.
And then, until Elon Musk bought it. But if you look at the Twitter files, the Facebook files, all of these things that came out about how social media was censoring people, it turns out maybe Trump knew what he was talking about. Holy cow. U.S. takes aim at the power behind Venezuela's Maduro, his first lady, clamps down on waivers tied to Iran's nuclear cooperation, cuts. Now, this I found interesting. I completely forgot about this, or it flew under the radar. Trump administration cuts royalty payments for oil companies.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this. Critics contend that the Interior Department's Bureau of Land Management move has been done with little oversight. What's really funny, right, is these are the people. Remember, the left is very anti-oil, right? They have consistently, over and over, said that oil companies shouldn't be making the money they are. They should be blah, 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 blah. Trump did this, right? Reduced the royalty payments. And of course, what did the left do? Pile on and said that, no, this was a horrible idea. You shouldn't have done this. He couldn't do anything right for these people, ever. They refused to give him anything even approaching a win. I mean, forget a win. They just wouldn't even allow a draw. Anything and everything Trump did was the end of the world, right? Confirms U.S. is leaving Open Skies Surveillance Treaty. The Open Skies was the treaty that we had with Russia that allowed, basically, they could fly over Alaska if it was shorter to get back to Russia from where they were, and we could fly over Russia. We couldn't just fly over the whole country, but there were certain areas where it was like, no, that's okay. We're not going to attack you.
Wasn't it something to do with our nuclear system? I think it was something to do with our nuclear, so that they have reassurance that we weren't planning on attacking them.
Yeah, it's something like that. Let's take a look. 34-nation agreement allows the U.S., Russia, and other countries to fly their aircraft over each other's territory, increasing transparency and reducing the chances for perilous miscalculations. Quote, Russia didn't adhere to the treaty, so until they adhere, we will pull out, Trump said, adding there's a very good chance to reach a new deal. We're going to pull out, and they're going to come back and want to make a deal. Everything with Trump was a deal.
He's a business
deal, man. I mean, go ahead.
He's a businessman.
Right, exactly. He's a businessman. He's a real estate tycoon. Everything to him was dealable. Mm-hmm. You could make a deal on anything. Secret new watch list lets his administration track Americans without needing a warrant. Gee, that sounds familiar. Why do I think that didn't originate with Trump?
It probably didn't. They just told us about it when Trump was president.
So according to this, for the first time since 9/11, includes Americans who have no connection to terrorism. The new watch list, authorized through a classified attorney general order and launched in 2017, is expected to grow to well over 1 million names. It also allows the government to track and monitor Americans without a warrant, even when there is no evidence they're breaking the law. And while two separate laws require the government to announce new systems of data collection of Americans, there has been no acknowledgement of the expanded watch list. That's one of the things I'm not loving. Let's the Trump administration recently moved to oust 4 government watchdogs. Let's see here. There it is. Missed it. Okay. So who were they? Updated to clarify that Christy Grimm remains in charge of the Inspector General's Office for the Health and Human Services, but that President Donald Trump has nominated someone else to run the office. So you got to love, right, these stories that run with a certain headline, yeah. And then they'll publish it, they'll run with it for a week or two, and then they'll quietly add a correction.
And that happened quite a bit under Trump.
It really did. It happened a lot, like a lot. Approves massive solar project in Nevada. Trump administration drafting Artemis Accords pact for moon mining. Now, that one I found extremely interesting. Why? Because allegedly, we're not going to the moon. We lost the technology to take us to the moon.
How do you lose technology?
That's a damn good question. That's a video all on its own. But I find it very interesting that Trump, especially, remember, shortly after this was the advent of Space Force. Why is he talking about divvying up the moon's resources when allegedly we can't even get back there?
That's a good question.
I found that interesting.
That is.
Yeah. Lists some of them, Amazon's foreign websites as, quote, notorious counterfeit markets. Imagine that. Counterfeit on Amazon. U.S. splits with allies again as it looks to extend Iran weapons ban.
Sign in here. There's a Wi-Fi there.
So yeah, there's I'm working on restoring a computer in the background and decided this was a good time to finish. Donald Trump signs immigration pause proclamation. Now look at that. That's interesting because weren't we assured by Joe Biden that he needed more power to affect the border?
Yeah, he did.
Trump administration launches border wall website with interactive construction map. That was pretty cool. U.S. Space Force is building weapons to block Russian and China satellites. Trump administration provides $5 million aid to PA amid coronavirus crisis.
Palestinian Authority.
Ah, I thought it was Pennsylvania. Look at that. So we gave $5 million to the Palestinians. This is the first time the U.S. would provide aid to the PA since U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to cut all its funding. $5 million to Palestinian hospitals to help combat the coronavirus. Ambassador David Friedman announced in a tweet over the weekend. It's just a fraction of the $120 million the Palestinian Authority needs to combat the COVID-19 pandemic and the overall anticipated $1.4 billion PA deficit in 2020. My question again is, why in the hell are we sending money to the Palestinian Authority? Why are we sending money to Israel? Why are we sending money to Ukraine? I could go on and on. But here, there are small businesses that had to close forever because of the stupid ass regulations that went along with the pandemic. Declares major disaster in all 50 states. 2017 Pentagon memo foretold today's pandemic with creepy accuracy. Why am I not surprised? Remember, Fauci said he was 100% sure that Trump would encounter a pandemic during his administration. You guys remember that?
I do.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trump administration slaps sanctions on Russian white supremacists. What an interesting headline. Not just Russians, not just Russia, but specifically Russian white supremacists. Do they do a lot of business with us? How does that work?
I don't
exactly? It looks like it's thinking.
See if the link works.
If the link, there it goes. Okay, let's take the move against the Russian imperial movement is the first time the designation has been made for a white supremacist group. Okay. I don't know. They look an awful lot like the Ukrainian people, don't they? Nationalist group in Russia with weapon simulators at a training base in St. Petersburg, Russia on February 28, 2015. Designated a Russian white supremacist group a, quote, foreign terrorist organization and hit its members with sanctions. First time the designation has been made, comes amid doubts. It comes amid doubts the administration believes extremist organizations of that type merit such sanctions. So it sounds like it sounds like somebody brought up, hey, they don't really think you're taking this white supremacist thing seriously. And so the, I guess, counter or the plan was to sanction some Russian dudes nobody's ever heard of.
I guess so.
I guess. That's kind of
I don't remember this happening.
Yeah, I don't either. It was April 6th of 2020. So interesting. It almost seems like I'm not racist. Look, I mean, Trump's not racist. Let's clear that up.
Okay.
But he's taken such heat for stuff like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, look, it really reads like look, I swear. Trump expands DPA amid mounting pressure, announced enhanced narcotics operation amid coronavirus, deploys destroyers and Air Force assets. That was interesting. I had forgotten about that.
I did too.
Yeah, he actually targeted the traffickers and made a serious dent, if I recall.
There was a few operations that he did to save people too.
Yeah. Education Department advances longstanding plan to loosen regulation of online college learning, which I think is a very positive thing. Mostly online college is perfect for those people with a packed schedule that want to be able to like expand their I guess
education, their learning.
Yeah, like they want to have the certificates, right? The bachelor's or the master's or the whatever, right? It's an excellent opportunity to do that and then go online rather than having to go to a campus and all of that. Online learning is phenomenal. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You're quiet. I wasn't sure. I'm like, all right. So this is actually interesting. We're going to do a whole thing on this, but Google data center's secret cost, billions of gallons of water. Now, why does that even matter? Because they're actually building one right in my county. Trump signs $2 trillion coronavirus relief package. Space Force launched first mission. So let's talk about Space Force just for a second. I would say one of the biggest takeaways from Trump's presidency was the establishment of an entirely different branch of the armed forces called Space Force. Now, there's been a lot made out of what Space Force does, but the kind of the essence, what they tell us is it's satellites, it's cyberspace, it's communications, because since their establishment, they have actually taken over all the communications for all the armed forces. Did you notice that?
Uh-huh.
They are in charge of all of the communications. I wonder if they're mining the moon.
Maybe.
I'll tell you what, I do not buy for a moment that we've lost the technology to go to the moon. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. $1,200 cash payments help for businesses. Here's what's in the historic stimulus package for coronavirus. I'll say this, everybody was giddy about that. You remember that? Oh,
I do.
$1,200. Like even the left was like, oh, it's a great idea. We need to get money. Yeah. Yeah. You look at the inflation now. Trump signs the bill, invokes Defense Production Act. What is it? That was actually a really good thing. And it showed that's still there. Keep that in your mind. If the U.S. needs to go to war or needs to respond to an emergency, they can indeed force businesses to produce what they want. It's one of those things that people should really kind of just keep in the back of their mind. Trump orders HUD to suspend evictions and foreclosures. I remember that, as a matter of fact. So the house next door, this way, there were renters there. And it was a friend of mine that owned the house. They suspended evictions, and those people immediately stopped paying rent. That happened a lot.
It did.
Like they just didn't pay a dime. He had to wait until they rescinded that, and he could finally get rid of them. It was over a year, I think close to 2 years that they stayed there and didn't pay any rent.
Wow.
It's crazy if you think about it. And these are the same people, by the way, that lived there for several years prior and were able to pay rent just fine. And they had money during the pandemic. I know, just put it that way. They didn't pay a dime of rent. And so after he was finally able to evict them, he decided to sell. And that was in, I want to say like 2022-ish. And it sold for like double what, in my opinion, it was worth. $100,000 for, in my opinion, a $35,000 house.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. The house across the street's falling apart, and they want 120 grand for that one. It's nuts, man.
It is.
And that's one side effect of the whole Corona crap and all the other things that were going on. The economy's just out of control, man. It's absolutely out of control. HUD announces more than 118 million in grants to fight homelessness. Trump declared a national emergency. Move forward with cutting off funds to sanctuary cities. Do not protect criminals. Now, initially, everybody said, oh, it's never going to hold up. They're going to get rid of it. It's never going to hold up. It turns out
that the court case actually said that it was constitutional.
Trump was able to do it.
Uh-huh.
He was able to do it. Donates quarterly salary to HHS for coronavirus efforts. Signed a peace deal with Taliban after nearly 2 decades of war in Afghanistan. Trump appoints Pence to lead government's coronavirus response. Trump administration limits Social Security access. Now, there's going to be several of these, so let's just get this out of the way.
Okay.
So basically what Trump did with the Social Security is specifically targeting the disability, right, aspect of Social Security. Not when you're old enough to collect, but you claim you're disabled, are you? One of the first things that he did was he made it to where there were more frequent verifications of their disability. Now, I don't know about you, but I, throughout my life, have met people who are collecting what they call a crazy check. That's what they call it, not me. I get my crazy check. And they're perfectly capable of working. Like, perfectly capable of working. The system is flawed. That said, there are many, many, many people, I don't have an exact number, but that collect disability because they're disabled. What the Trump administration tried to do was to get rid of the people who can work and retain the people who can't.
And that's reasonable.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think that there are, or at least were, many people milking the system. Hopefully it was able to do something. One other aspect that he did that we're going to come across in a little bit is that, so one of the things that they looked at, used to, when figuring out if you can get gainful employment, right? So let's say you're telling the Social Security office that you're disabled, okay? How are you disabled? You'll have you'll fill it out, right? You'll say, oh, like, for example, let's say you have schizophrenia, okay? You have delusions and hallucinations. Obviously, in that case, especially if you're a paranoid schizophrenic, you can't really hold down a regular job because you're freaking nuts, right? It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you prove that to the Social Security Administration? You go to their psychiatrist. You go to, you have your psychiatrist, and then they tell Social Security, yeah, this dude's nuts, right? And then, obviously, I'm paraphrasing. It doesn't really say that. What it says is a whole bunch of, medical terminology.
I know what you meant, but it was just.
But it comes down to the dude's freaking nuts.
Just the way you said it was funny.
Yeah, so what Social Security do, they'll say, okay, you have to go see our doctor, and we'll see what they say. So they go see that doctor. But through the process, there are various things. There's points system, right? They'll look at it and they'll go, okay, well, yeah, since he has hallucinations, right, that's worth X number of points. How difficult would it be for them to go get a job? One of the things that they considered a hindrance to getting a job was the inability to speak English. The Trump administration aimed to change that. Because, and this is my personal opinion, our country should not be paying you to not learn our fucking language.
That's fair. Like, if you don't want to learn the language, that's fine, but then don't expect to get a handout.
Exactly.
You're fair. That's very fair.
Yeah, if you want to go through life not learning English, that's on you, homie. Knock yourself out. However, if you're going to choose to not learn English, there's no reason we should give you money for not learning English. That's fucking stupid. So I'm all on board for that. And of course, you know, the Democrats, the left, whomever, the anti-Trumpers said, it's going to make it harder for people who really need disability to get it. No, it's not, because that's only one factor. There are plenty of other factors that go into that as to whether or not you are legitimately disabled. And if you're legitimately disabled, that's what Social Security is for. That's the point of the program. You should collect it. If you are not legitimately disabled, get your ass to work.
Mm-hmm.
EPA is conducting multiple criminal probes tied to forever chemicals. You know what we've heard a lot about recently?
Forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals. Yeah. When was this? Let's take a look. This was February 26th of 2020. And of course, I get spammed by ads. So the EPA was actually looking into filing criminal charges, multiple criminal investigations underway concerning PFAS-related pollution.
Yep.
Interesting, because Shawn and I have exposed, I've lost count at this point, the stuff that's trying to kill us. Our foods, our drinks, there's forever chemicals in all this crap, dude. Like, it's almost impossible to not ingest any of it. Richard Grinnell to be acting director of national intelligence. Now, I don't know if you guys remember him. I like Richard Grinnell. I think he's hilarious. He's got a good sense of humor. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And he happens to like dudes. He's gay.
Yeah.
But I don't, like, he doesn't make that everything about his personality. As a matter of fact, he's said on multiple occasions, I just happen to be gay. That it's not the essence of my personality the way that, you know, some of the LGBT LMNOP crowd are.
Trump might make him CIA director.
I would not hate that. I like I said, I like Richard Grinnell. So just FYI, that was page 1.
We're on page 2 now.
This is page 2.
Out of 3.
Yeah. Okay, now this one I do want to talk about. Trump's pardon of Bernie Kerik also apparently wiped out Kerik's $103,300 debt to taxpayers. Now, I got a real problem with this one. So, first of all, who is this guy?
Oh, yeah,
I forgot. Oh, no. There. Trump granted a full pardon to former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik, clearing him of his 8 counts of tax fraud, lying to federal investigators, and other crimes that accompanied his downfall. Kerik had already served his 3 years in prison for his crimes, but the pardon wipes out more than his criminal record. The pardon cancels out $103,300 in restitution that Kerik still wait a minute, hold on. He still owed it to the Internal Revenue Service. I thought he owed it to the taxpayers. Fuck the IRS. I don't care anymore.
Okay.
I
thought that too.
Yeah, I I was under the impression that like taxpayers were getting screwed out of the money, pass it out to them. We all know the IRS is not going to give us any of our money. So they can go to hell. I legitimately don't care about that anymore. But he got the reason I brought it up is because he got pardoned because he's friends with Giuliani. Carrick is, right? Or was.
He was the police chief of New York City.
Yeah, he was the commissioner while Giuliani was mayor, and those two were friends. And Rudy went to Trump and was like, please, will you pardon him? And Trump finally said, fine, get out of my office.
Get out.
All right.
All right, that's.
Oh.
That can't be everything.
No, I was all the way down.
Oh, that's
That's
why.
why. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, hold on. I'm on the wrong one.
Oh, you're still on part 1.
There. Okay. U.S. military left thousands of weapons vulnerable to loss or theft during fight against ISIS in Syria.
Trump did
announced,
it too.
What?
I guess Trump did that too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems like this is quite common. The question, you know what I want to know, though? Did Trump fire the generals?
That's a good question.
Let's find out. Officials with special blah, 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 blah in the first theater did not properly account for $715 million in arms earmarked for Syrian forces fighting ISIS. This may have resulted in gear damage and duplicate weapons purchases, inflating the operation's spending figures. So they failed to properly track or store the weapons. They didn't just leave them out there for the Taliban or whatever. But let's see. Overseas storage of these weapons at a warehouse. Okay. Did not divest or dispose of equipment received, leading to overcrowding at the Kuwait storage facility. This meant officials had to resort to using outside shipping containers to house the overflow, exposing them to harsh conditions, resulted in rusting and other damage. Almost 4,100 weapons, including grenade launchers and machine guns, were among the equipment left in shipping containers. Dude. The report explained the lack of inventory records, no way to stop duplicate orders. Okay, hold on. Blah, 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 blah. I'm seeing if, okay, so this was February 19th, 2020. And it was Special Operations Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve. So SOJTF-OIR. And the 1st Theater Sustainment Command. I would be interested to see if there were any firings of generals shortly after
there might have
February, around February of 2020. Be interested to find that out. In the meantime, U.S. opens channel to provide humanitarian assistance to Iran. Treasury sets record $83 billion quarterly debt refunding. What does that mean, debt refunding?
I believe that was the selling of our debt.
Okay.
To different countries.
Yeah. So
my guess, I might be wrong.
Let's take a look at, okay. That's really small. There we go. Treasury Department announced it will sell $83 billion in notes and bonds next week at its quarterly refunding auction. This is $5 billion larger than the package announced last quarter. Okay. So they're basically, they're selling Treasury notes. All right. Something that happens all the time. But it was more than it usually was. So, of course, that's a headline. I get it. I'm not downplaying it. But one thing I will say, did you guys see, surely you saw it, where the basically Biden's right-hand man when it comes to finance couldn't explain how our money system worked?
I saw that.
It confused the hell out of him. He couldn't explain anything. He just I
think it was at a committee hearing.
Oh, it was insane, man.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was ridiculous. EPA announces $2.2 million grant for drinking water programs. Trump released long-awaited Middle East peace plan. It was a good plan. Keystone XL pipeline right away approved. Pentagon racks up $35 trillion in accounting changes in 1 year. $35 trillion in accounting changes.
And that's almost our entire national debt because we're at 36 trillion right now.
Yeah, which it's really interesting how close those two sums are, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that large of a volume of money, right? It's not the first time that the Pentagon has played fast and loose with their budget, to say the least, right? 9/11.
Yeah.
A lot of people know now that right when 9/11 happened, the Pentagon somehow misplaced trillions and trillions of dollars. Remember that?
I do.
Yeah. Trump defends school prayer. Critics say he's got it all wrong. Interesting, right? Why? What happened recently that shows Trump was right?
Are you talking about the 10 Commandments in Louisiana?
Yeah. Louisiana was able to add the 10 Commandments to all their classrooms, to all their schools. Why? Because it's a state's issue. States can do what the hell they want. One thing we are seeing as a consequence of the Trump administration is states are basically taking their power back in many, many scenarios. And a recent Supreme Court decision regarding the Chevron doctrine.
Oh, yeah.
Has basically gutted all these fake 3-letter agencies. They don't have the power that they thought they did.
No.
That they tried to. And overreach is the reason why they're getting gutted. That's really what it comes down to. Had they stuck to what they were supposed to do, which was just the law, they wouldn't have had any problems. But U.S.-China signed historic phase 1 trade deal. Trump officials to announce completion of 100 miles of border wall. It doesn't sound like that much, 100 miles. But when was this? 1/9/20. So by 2020, they were able to do 100 miles of the border wall.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't sound like that much when you figure our border is thousands of miles long. We got to do something.
It takes a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time. Trump administration rule requires Obamacare insurers to bill for abortion separately. What's your take on it?
That insurers bill. Well,
they made it to where if you're sponsored by government in your healthcare plan,
the taxpayers should not be paying for abortion.
I agree with that. Is that green, by the way?
It is.
Okay, I thought so. It was red earlier. I do my microphone, making sure you got it turned on. He's usually pretty good about that, but I forget sometimes. So, here's the thing that I like about that, right? He's not outright saying you can't do it, but he is taking that step to show this part of it is for an abortion, right? I'm with you. I don't think we should be paying for it at all, but it's not up to us, at least not yet. Trump administration quietly targets disability benefits. Now, this is the thing that I was talking about earlier. And like I said, it's going to pop up a few times. Really, exactly what it comes down to is the Trump administration wanted to make sure that those collecting disability benefits were disabled.
That's very reasonable.
Which is extremely reasonable. U.S. airstrike kills Iran's powerful Quds Force leader. That was Soleimani. That was the first, not the first airstrike, but the first major, I guess, deal about airstrikes that the news ran wild with. Trump signs Brindisi-authored Veteran Suicide Prevention Act. It's a mouthful. What is it? It's something that I'm hugely in favor of. And what it does is it actually instructs the Veterans Affairs Organization and the various VA hospitals to be on the lookout for telltale signs of veterans that are struggling with PTSD and potentially could be having suicidal thoughts. It passed 95-0 in the Senate. It's an overall phenomenal program. I don't know why it wasn't already in effect, but good job, DJT. Seriously, I did. That's one of the ones that I can look at and go, there's no downsides to this. How Trump is filling the liberal Ninth Circuit with conservatives. That's one of the things that Trump did do is boom, judges.
Yep.
Tons and tons of judges.
And the Democrats gave them the opportunity to do it when they changed the rules of the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah. What, you want to?
Okay. Harry Reid, the former Senate Majority Leader in like 2015, made it that court justices didn't have to have 60 votes anymore to be confirmed. He lowered that to 51 because they wanted to get somebody confirmed.
The bare majority instead of the overwhelming like 2/3 or whatever that it used
60.
to be. 60.
So
yeah,
3/5
60 out of 100. So yeah. But then they made it a simple majority, 51, which was
not knowing at the time that would actually have a Trump presidency and that would happen.
Yeah, and when Trump came along, because regardless of who, right, the vast majority of, you want to call them the deep state, you want to call them the unelected bureaucrats, all these people were expecting Hillary.
I was expecting Hillary.
Many people.
I never thought Trump was going to win.
A lot of people felt that way, right? They were expecting Hillary. They've said on multiple occasions he was never supposed to win, right?
And personally, watching him on election night, I don't think he thought he was going to win.
You're not the only one to say that. A lot of people have said it didn't really, it seemed like he was like, yeah, this ain't going to happen. I made a good run, and then boom. He did. So let me ask you something. You don't have to incriminate yourself. Right?
Okay.
But what were you expecting if Trump had lost in 2016, especially if it was a very near margin?
Are you talking about, do I think that Trump would have accepted it?
No. Do you think that the people would have acted out?
No.
You don't think so? Interesting. Okay. All right.
We would have just accepted Hillary.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody knew. I think I was in the camp in the majority that everybody was expecting Hillary.
Okay. Interesting. I do know that like news organizations, everybody was expecting Hillary Clinton to win, right? And that's what they pushed for a very long time. The polls, remember, 99% Hillary, 1% Trump, right? Over they pushed this garbage. So these people in these agencies, these unelected bureaucrats, were expecting a Hillary administration.
Mm-hmm.
So they set up the rules for Hillary and for the expectation that, we can get all these judges replaced. Trump used that crap against them.
He did.
He got in, he went, all right, let's go.
And I was not on the Trump train until he won. That night that he won, I said, I'm going to give him a chance and see what he does. And I won't be anti-Trump anymore. I'll give him a chance to see what he does. And he proved that to me that he was the real deal.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So you weren't a fan of DJT when
Who
did you want to get the Republican nomination?
In 2016,
Yeah.
I was a Rand Paul guy.
Okay. I can see it. He didn't run though, did he?
He did.
He did? For the Republican nomination? I thought he ran as like an independent.
Nope. He ran as a Republican, but he got knocked out after Iowa.
That's what it was. Okay. All right.
I still voted for him in the primary and I voted for him in the general.
I don't hate that. I understand. I get Rand Paul. He's one of the few good ones, in my opinion, in the not the White House, but the Capitol in Washington. He's one of the few good ones. That said, I was once Trump won the nomination, I was really curious about him. I didn't really pay that much attention prior to him winning the nomination, right? I started actually listening like to the rallies and to the things that he said, and I was prepared to do some stupid stuff if Trump didn't win. Yeah, as much as I'll say, I didn't have any specific plans, but me and a number of people that I know were expecting Hillary to carry it because we saw what happened in 2020. Just put it that way. So we were expecting that.
I see.
In 2016. And when it didn't happen, we were like, okay. But I was definitely a Trump fan by the time the general election came along.
Alrighty then.
Anyway, U.S. government hits record for Treasury selling debt. Trump created the Space Force. Here's what it actually does. We've talked about that. Acquiring private land is slowing Trump's border wall. Makes sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to. But what's interesting is they'll talk about acquiring private land is slowing it down, but they won't talk about the constant fights that he had to go through in Congress to even get the money for it.
True.
Think about the $2 trillion for coronavirus, right? $5 billion he couldn't get for the wall. It's stupid. It shows. And remember, we've sent billions and billions and billions to Ukraine, to Israel, right? But we can't defend our southern border because it's too expensive.
Fair point.
Get out of here with that. Like, come on. At this point, it's all numbers anyway. I don't even know if half this stuff. The vast majority of currency, by the way, is digital. There is not enough physical currency.
Oh, yeah.
To basically, if everybody said, I want cash, there's not enough. So just keep that in mind. Average hourly earnings and consumer confidence is up since Trump took office. The economy was booming, man.
Yep.
Scratching the surface. Education Department uncovers $1.3 billion in foreign university funding. And like it said, just scratching the surface is all they were doing.
Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, DeVos. Yeah. Yeah. There were astronomical amounts of funding coming in from foreign nations to our universities. China, a bunch of them. Trump donates third quarter salary to help fight opioid crisis. Trump administration launches project to keep plastic waste out of the oceans. That's funny. I didn't hear anything about that from the environmental, go squad. Now this is interesting. U.S. says Israeli settlements are no longer illegal. Now the international community had consistently panned Israel for these settlements, saying they're not legal. That's not your land. You had a clearly delineated border and you've consistently gone outside of it. That's the international community said. The U.S. agreed with them up until Trump said, okay, yeah, you guys are right. That's fine. Trump admin preparing to take over private land in Texas for border wall. Now, I'll say this. I am not a fan of eminent domain.
I'm not either.
At all. I do not like it. There are very, very, very minuscule few situations where I believe that it's warranted. This is one. This is one of the situations that I believe warrants having eminent domain because we have to protect.
It's national security.
Exactly. It's national security. Now, taking your land so they can build a solar farm, that's bullshit. Taking your land so they can do just about anything else, I wholeheartedly disagree with. But this is a legitimate national security issue. Again, revealed Secret Service failed ISIS assassination attempt on President Trump. How many times do you think they tried to assassinate? Not as in they, whomever, not a particular entity.
A lot.
Yeah,
I think there was quite a bit more than we know.
Oh, absolutely. You just go ahead.
One time it was during a press conference, and Trump was like, "Oh, somebody's trying to get me. Let's go."
Yeah. He was like, "Whoa, boy, come on." Yeah. I was like, "All right."
And the Secret Service was like, "Mr. Trump, you got to go back."
Yeah. Which is really funny, right? You see that, and you see the way that Trump responded to it, and then what's amusing to me is when you hear them talk about the protesters breaching the gate at the White House, and they took Trump to the secure bunker, right? That's what the Secret Service does.
Yeah.
That's their literal job, to protect the president. They can make it out however they want. In my opinion, good on you. That's what the Secret Service is there for. That's why we have the bunkers in the White House, for that very reason. Trump announces death of ISIS leader in U.S. raid. Trump approves special ops raid targeting ISIS leader Baghdadi. Military says he's already dead. Deficit rose to $984 billion in 2019, highest in 7 years. Trump prepares to formally withdraw U.S. from Paris Climate Accord. Now, that's one of the things that Biden immediately jumped us back into. Why is the Paris Climate Accord so bad? Well, first of all it is a money shuffle. That's all it is. They take money from us, and then they can do whatever they want with it. But more importantly, if it's about the environment, which is what they claim it is, Paris Climate Accord, right? Then China and India should be involved, considering they're the biggest polluters. But no, the U.S.
It's just us.
Yeah. I want no part of it. The only existing footage, that's something else. But the World Trade Center, What is E15? Donald Trump to lift EPA ban on pump gasoline to boost Midwest Republicans ahead of midterm elections. Once again, the headline. Really? That's why he's doing it, guys, to give these Republicans a boost. It can't possibly be because it's not a terrible fuel. It's only 15% ethanol. Like, it would actually work in most vehicles. Anyway, Trump establishes new military space command. U.S. trade deficit widens to $53 billion as soybean exports plummet amid China trade battle. Now, one of the things that I was very torn about initially, right? I'm like, I didn't understand enough to be sure whether it was a positive or negative thing. Was the Trump-China tariff thing, right? It turns out, and we've talked about this before, even the far left, like our Democrat Congressman Irvan, loves the tariffs on steel. And they're still pushing to keep them in. What I found very interesting is they worked. The tariffs with China and the other trade things that he was doing actually equalized and turned out to make us a significant amount of money on China trade. But of course, that's one of the first things they got rid of. U.S. Space Command launches amid Trump push for military space force, which, like we said, they're in charge of all communications now. Pentagon chief approves 20 more miles of border wall. Trump-Maduro confirms secret Venezuela-U.S. talks amid increased pressure on socialist regime. President Trump donates $100,000 of his salary to Surgeon General's office. Trump administration urges Congress to reauthorize NSA surveillance program. Not a fan. Don, not a fan. Pentagon testing mass surveillance balloons across the U.S. Wait, hold on. Wait a minute.
Exactly
mass
what I did.
Surveillance balloons. Didn't we hear about balloons recently? Weren't they supposedly from China? This is interesting, guys. Check this out. So this was from August 2nd, 2019. And the Pentagon was talking about surveillance balloons across 6 Midwest states. Interesting. Isn't that where the balloon went that was supposedly from China?
It went through Alaska and then
it came
Washington,
down through Canada and then went through like Montana and Wyoming and
Missouri, Kentucky.
Yeah. Look at this. This is interesting. Up to 25 unmanned solar-powered balloons are being launched from rural South Dakota and drifting 250 miles through an area that spans portions of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Missouri before wrapping up in Illinois.
It's a head scratcher.
It is a head scratcher. Am I saying anything? No. But it certainly begs the question,
That's exactly what I did when I found that.
You go, yeah. Yeah, it is. I found that extremely interesting. The debt and spending deal includes $738 billion for defense, and Pentagon has, quote, no complaints. Well, why would they? They got, anyway. The top 11 favors the Trump administration has done for Saudi Arabia. Now, that's another concern of mine, and I got no problem saying it. The Trump administration was awfully close with Saudi Arabia.
And he just signed a new deal, or I should say his company, the Trump organization, just signed another deal with Saudi Arabia a couple days ago to build a building in Saudi Arabia. So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I will say that it's very easy as Trump supporters to look at the unfair way he's treated in the press, because it is unfair. It's garbage compared to the way they treated Obama
or Biden
or Biden. I mean, it's very blatantly obvious at this point to anyone who's paying attention. Now, that said, it's very easy as a Trump supporter to basically let him get away with anything because of all the negative attention he's associated with, right? So anytime they bring anything up, it's like, well, we know that's bull. The deals with Saudi Arabia, the deals with Israel, the deals with various countries were a legitimate concern. Saudi Arabia is way up there because didn't Jared have some stuff going on with Saudi Arabia in the background as well?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of Jared Kushner.
Yeah, Democrats have accused him of using, when he was talking to Saudi Arabia with the Trump administration, and actually having side deals being negotiated when he
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's accurate, but I will say I'm not a huge fan of Jared Kushner. Honestly, I'm not a massive fan of really any of the Trump kids. I like them, but Jared, I do not trust at all. There's something just there, in my opinion. However, I had real concerns when it comes to the deals that were made with Saudi Arabia, the favor shown to them as opposed to certain other countries. Again, anytime a foreign nation has any degree of what I consider outsized influence on matters here in the United States, I have a problem. I don't care what country it is. It could be like, I love Germany, dude. I just do. I have German heritage. I got a lot of love for Germany, especially pre-psycho years, right? But even if Germany was exerting, even if Germany wasn't ran by far left lunatics at this point, right? Even if they were much like the United States, I would have a problem with Germany controlling things here in the United States. No other country should control our country. Period. End of story.
That's a fair assessment.
Citing discrimination, HUD denies LA $80 million. Fact check. Trump says Blumenthal lied. He did. And bragged. He didn't. Okay. This one's like not that big of a deal, but it's a big deal to me because I reference it a lot. Blumenthal is a gigantic POS. Why? Because Trump tweet here, this is from September 29th, 2018, says, quote, Senators Richard Blumenthal must talk about his fraudulent service in Vietnam, where for 12 years he told the people of Connecticut, as their attorney general, that he was a great Marine war hero, talked about his many battles of near death, but was never in Vietnam. Total phony. Whoops. Oh, there it is right there. There it is right there on X for you. So the president has made similar remarks on Blumenthal's admitted falsehoods. We fact-checked another claim last year, but the president exaggerated them even further on Monday, saying the senator had once claimed to be a war hero. Blumenthal did lead voters in Connecticut to believe he was a Vietnam veteran, when, in fact, he was never deployed to Vietnam. Let that sink in. He said he was a Marine veteran, a Vietnam veteran, but he was never deployed to Vietnam. He obtained at least 5 deferments and later served in the Marine Reserve in the Washington area. That is a massive difference between going to Vietnam and serving in the reserve by your home. They couldn't be more different. Stolen valor, I don't care how you slice it. He's a gigantic steaming pile of garbage. Period. End of story. That's why we included that. The Pentagon can ID your heartbeat using laser beams. This is messed up. From 600 meters away?
Yeah, I think it was 600 meters.
So the method is 95% accurate. Stop it. And works from 200 meters away.
Still, that's
600 feet. That's far. Way too far. Not a fan. Trump directs Pentagon to develop policy allowing service academy athletes to go pro right away. Trump admin unveils $50 billion Palestinian economic plan. So I looked into that. Basically, Trump talked about $50 billion going in to Palestine in order to basically build infrastructure for the coronavirus stuff, I believe. Let me make sure this is the right one.
And I think it was also when he was trying to make peace between Israel
and the deal of the century Middle East peace plan. Yeah, it was around the deal. He was trying to get the peace plan done.
And Jared Kushner was in charge of it.
Yeah. The scheme, which calls for a mix of public and private financing and intends to create at least 1 million new jobs for Palestinians, was posted to the White House website ahead of the 2-day conference in Bahrain. Here's the thing. The Palestinians went, no.
No, the leaders did not want it.
They didn't want it at all. They read it. They were like, yeah, you can keep your money. We don't want any part of that.
They want to keep their people poverty.
That's a possibility. The other possibility is they don't want to be they don't want to feel like they owe the U.S. something. I'll say this, and we're going to disagree on the Middle East conflict. That's just how it is. But there's no reason that the leaders of these Palestinians, the Hamas leaders, should be multi-billionaires and the people should be in poverty.
Exactly.
Period. End of story, regardless of how you feel about anything else. Trump invokes emergency powers to sidestep Congress and sell arms to Saudi Arabia. We're hearing about them again. Here are 12 pardons or reduced sentences granted by Trump. Trump announces U.S. withdrawal from UN arms trade treaty. U.S. and Russia back nuclear projects on opposite sides of Red Sea as they fight for influence. Doesn't sound like Trump is being controlled by Russia, does it? Trump administration okays nuclear energy transfers to Saudi Arabia, sparking new battle with Congress. It's a whole lot of Saudi stuff happening, man. Once again,
There was a lot.
Yep. Trump formally recognizes Israeli sovereignty over Golan Heights.
That was a big one, too.
That was a big one. And once again, outsized influence. That's all I'm going to say. U.S. created confidential file of alleged Israeli war criminals for ICC. We just talked about that not that long ago.
Yeah, but
is this the same one?
This is different.
So what is this about?
I think this was just the United Nations compiling.
Part of a 252-page report, which is submitted Monday to the U.S. Okay, this is, hold on.
2019?
Yeah, I believe so. Where's the date on this thing? Yeah, March 18th, 2019. Yeah. Created a confidential file of Israelis who it holds could be culpable of killing peaceful Palestinians and has asked that it be handed to the ICC, International Criminal Court. The commission also called for financial sanctions and an arms embargo against Israel. Okay. The commission stated that as part of its work, it placed in a dossier relevant information on those it deemed responsible for human rights violations that could be considered war crimes. It handed the file to UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet. It asked her office to pass the dossier to the ICC, which is currently weighing whether a war crime suit can be opened against Israelis. Quote, we found reasonable grounds to believe that Israeli security forces committed serious violations of human rights and international humanitarian law. These violations clearly warrant criminal investigation and prosecution, Commission Chairman Santiago Canton of Argentina said. So, let me see here. Okay, so the Gaza report was one of 7 on alleged Israeli human rights abuses, which the UNHRC debated on Monday, along with 5 resolutions calling for actions. Neither the United States nor Israel spoke at the council, but very importantly, their officials did issue tweets during the council meeting. Jason Greenblatt, the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, tweeted that the UNHRC would again attack Israel, quote, but with no mention of the heinous crimes of Hamas/other terrorist groups in Gaza. Last week, militants in Gaza launched rockets into Tel Aviv, yet the UN has failed to pass even one resolution criticizing them. Seriously? With a question mark, exclamation, question mark. Israel's foreign ministry emphasized to the 47-member council that, quote, instead of condemning Hamas as the prime source of violence and instability in Gaza, the Commission of Inquiry is blaming the victims of Hamas terrorism for acting in self-defense. In its report to the UNHRC, the Gaza Commission said it understood that Israel believed the weekly Hamas-led Palestinian protests along the Gaza border that began on March 30th, 2018, constituted an existential threat. But in reality, the commission said, the protests were largely peaceful and did not constitute such a threat. Although the protests are held every Friday, the commission only investigated the 189 Palestinians killed and 6,016 injured that occurred in the first 9 months of the protests. Israel's argued they're violent. Okay, so this is interesting right here. It says, still, the commission found only 2 instances where use of live ammunition was justified. To protest the biased nature of the commission, which was tasked with investigating Israel and not Hamas, I can see that as being that's biased. If you're going to investigate, you should investigate everyone. Israel refused to allow its 3-member legal panel to enter the country or travel into Gaza. Blah, blah, blah. So it really just, again, comes down to I I don't know what's going on over there. And the people that were supposed to find out have apparently only been investigating one side. That's not okay. They need to investigate both sides. However, when they did so, and they said, okay, yeah, we're gonna issue arrest warrants for the leaders of Hamas, but we're also gonna issue arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his defense minister. Then, of course, the United States said, no, you can't go after Israel. Trump officially directs Pentagon to create Space Force legislation for Congress. Trump declares national emergency to build border walls, setting up massive legal fight. And it turns out, do you remember how that came out?
Didn't they rule that he could do it?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Yes, they actually, the courts ruled that human trafficking and invasion are legitimate national security emergencies. Who would have thought?
Who would have ever thought that?
Right? Trump makes it official. The U.S. is pulling out of a Cold War era nuclear weapons treaty with Russia. Trump donates $100,000 from salary to alcoholism research. Progress report. President Trump's campaign promises 2 years later. That was halfway through. And interestingly enough, he kept his promises. I mean, there was some stuff that he wasn't quite able to do because of the fights that were involved. I mean, he was opposed every time we turned around, even by so-called members of his party. Why do you think that is?
Because they're part of the swamp.
Absolutely. All right, so let me find
part 3, right?
Yeah, part 3, which is I think over here. There it is. Okay, I got it.
The last part.
Yep. Okay, so budget deficit projected to reach $1 trillion. U.S. deficit soared to $205 billion in November. Obama administration. Oh, this is interesting, by the way. Obama administration used tear gas at border once a month. Do you guys remember when they had that migrant caravan and they went nuts because they ended up having to use tear gas because they were charging the border,
I do.
Right? They sent some tear gas into the crowd. And of course, oh my God, they targeted the kids and they did, it always kills me when the left or whatever, right, talk about using less than lethal methods, right? Shoot them in the leg, use tear gas, use a taser. But when you do that stuff, they go nuts. And they're like, you never should have did it at all. He shouldn't have used tear gas. What's funny, and, of course, he's a racist and he's this and he's that, right? They claim. The Obama administration, like once a month, would use tear gas to keep people from rushing the fence. But nobody ever said a word about that. Elvis Presley among Trump's picks for Medal of Freedom. Trump INF back to a nuclear arms race. Why is Germany beefing up its military? It's a good question. Why were they beefing up their military?
It was an article talking about how they're having more money sent to NATO, to the Trump wanting.
Yep, exactly. So, there we go. Yep. I gotta make sure I'm pointing the right way for the way that I have the camera set up. But exactly, Trump said, "Why are these people not paying their fair share?" Right? We always hear. As a matter of fact, we hear that constantly from the left. Pay their fair share. Pay their fair share. Except when it comes to other countries paying their fair share, they just want billionaires to pay their fair share. Trump's HHS diverting funds from NIH and CDC to pay for increased number of migrant children. Interesting. Increased number of migrant children. Why does that tickle something? Let's take a look at this.
All right.
to pay for increased number of migrant children. Okay. The Department of Health and Human Services is reallocating more than $260 million in funds this year to house the increased number of detained migrant children. Okay, so this was 9/20/18. So 2018, why were there so many migrant children? Do you know why?
They were across the border.
Yeah, they kept coming across the border. But so a lot of people think that many of these children were rescued from human trafficking operations. I think there's a good degree of evidence to support that, given, I don't know if you guys saw, but Melania's dress that she wore this 4th of July, did you see it? It's the same as a few years ago. Hold on.
Really?
Yeah, hold on.
No, I haven't heard this.
Watch this. Okay, so hold on. Okay, hold on. No, this isn't the right one. Hang on. Okay, so, I'm sorry. It was the Mount Rushmore dress. And the claim was that it was designed by victims of human trafficking, right? Reuters claims that's not true. But let's look at, they don't even include pictures, interestingly enough. You gotta, like, this one way, like, you can't see that. So let's see here. What does it say? Alexander McQueen, spring, summer. Okay. Yeah, this one. The claim, dude, go away. Alexander McQueen dress, right? But if you look at it, it's got some very interesting and disturbing imagery on it. Do you remember this dress? Did you pay much attention to what she wore?
I did not.
It says here, design students at Central St. Martin's in London drew sketches during a life drawing class to make the illustrations. But if you zoom in on it, like this picture, especially right here, is really, really weird. Okay, this is not working. All right. Anyway, let's go back.
No, I didn't hear about.
Okay. North Korea agrees to dismantle missile test site as Kim Jong-un, Moon Jae-in signed deal. That's another thing. Yeah. So, yeah, we were told incessantly that Donald Trump was going to start World War III. You remember that?
Yep.
Every time he talked to another leader, Trump's going to start World War III.
Especially after his comment that if Kim Jong-un tried to attack us, he's going to have a fire and fury comment. And I was like, oh, that's no big deal. He was just basically striking back, telling him not to do it.
Yeah.
Don't you dare.
Right. Here's the thing. I would much rather a leader that tells people, hey, you do this, we're going to blow you to hell, than sending our boys to die for what? To prove a point that you could have proved. Here's the thing. Everybody knows the U.S. has this, and this. We've got, the most advanced military on the planet. We're the only superpower. They know all this. You don't need to stress any of that. You don't need to go in and kill people to make a point unless they already have, like, if they've killed us, absolutely. You guys look into the Roman Empire, right? So they're, speaking of the Roman Empire, I got to ask you, it's normally a female that asks their man, do you know what I'm
I know what you're going to say.
How many times during, let's say a month, right? Do you think about the Roman Empire?
I knew you were going to ask. I saw an article about that. And I don't really think about the Roman Empire.
You don't?
Not really.
Oh, okay. All right. I do. I think about it, not on a daily basis, but I consider it from time to time.
Maybe once a month.
Yeah. See? Like
okay, maybe once a month.
Yeah. Yeah. I at least go, anyway, the point that I was going to make is the Roman Empire declared that any civilization, right, who attacked one of their citizens, they would eradicate it. Roman citizens were free to walk anywhere that the Roman Empire controlled. They didn't need bodyguards because everyone knew if you attacked a Roman citizen, Rome would rain down hell and fury upon you. So, yeah, it is my belief that the United States should have that. Let's face it. How much money do we spend on taxes? We should be safe going wherever we want. At the same time, you should always be responsible for your own safety. I'm just saying, I'm not advocating, make sure I don't get twisted here. I'm not advocating for a police state or anything like that. What I'm saying is that when we travel abroad or whatever, people should be afraid of pissing the U.S. off. That's it. Trump administration can't stop spending money on lavish furnishings. How much did they spend?
I think if I remember right, it's a
$52,000 curtain system.
Nikki Haley and Ben Carson.
Look, it's Nikki Haley.
And Ben Carson.
And Ben Carson, yeah. Now, I will say, though, like, Ben Carson actually ended up giving a decent reason why. I don't remember what it was, but he had explained why it ended up being that way. Nikki Haley never adequately explained why she spent $52,000 on some damn curtains.
At the UN, yeah.
At the UN. And I have heard some very disturbing rumors that Nikki Haley is going to be a part of the new administration.
I think she will.
I hope not.
I predict she's going to be the Secretary of State.
Oh, God, please no. It's going to be Hillary all over again.
But, yeah, I could see her being Secretary of State.
She's an awful person. Trump signs executive order to boost retirement savings. I'm not sure what that's about. I don't remember that. Sign an executive order aimed at boosting retirement, here it is. By giving Americans more time to keep their money in tax-deferred accounts and allowing small businesses to band together. Oh, yeah, to offer 401ks. Yeah, okay. That was actually a really, really good thing because it allows small businesses to come together and have more buying power.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not an economist, but I figure that's a good brief breakdown. It's very positive overall. Kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Trump administration to end U.S. funding to UN program for Palestinian refugees. Trump administration has secretly launched an anti-weed committee. I wonder if just out of curiosity, I wonder if it's any worse than the Obama administration targeting cannabis growers in states where it's legal. And,
I remember that.
Seizing, yeah. You guys remember that? Trump's farmer bailout begins. USDA spends $1.2 billion to buy surplus food. This is nothing new, guys. I just want to say that the United States government has been involved in farming since the government was established.
Especially with corn.
Especially with corn. The entire industry is subsidized. It's so complicated. I have relatives who are farmers, and I will tell you they were huge fans of Trump. Even when they got hurt a little bit because of the tariffs with China and with Canada, there were some up and downs, and they ended up losing money for a little bit. And they said, it's okay. This is necessary. We need to fix stuff. Yeah, it'll hurt us for a little bit, but the long-term gains are going to be worth it. I haven't talked to him recently, but the last time that I did talk to him, they said basically Biden reversed pretty much everything that Trump was trying to do.
Because Trump did it.
Yeah, because Trump did it. Wages dropped despite an economic boom. Trump sets a risky precedent with Turkey by imposing weaponized sanctions. Do you know what that is offhand?
I don't. I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. Let's see what it is. What does that mean? Weaponized sanctions. Go away. U.S. President Trump appears to be, okay, so first of all, this was August 11th, 2018. All right. Leading by example with his aggressive habit of imposing economic sanctions abroad when he's aggrieved, but his reliance on a blunt tool could set a dangerous geopolitical trend. So say international trade lawyers and former diplomats. Oh, because they're trustworthy. Who point to what they view as an uptick in world leaders deploying tariffs and economic sanctions, ostensibly to hurt governments they feel have crossed them. Dun, dun, dun. Trump's Twitter declaration on Friday that the U.S. would double steel and aluminum tariffs on Turkey, imposed due to the imprisonment of an American pastor, appears to be the latest example.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
It took me a minute, but yeah. You know what? Trump didn't play.
No.
Trump didn't play. If you took an American citizen, Trump would do everything he could to make sure you were gone, you were let out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that in this administration.
That reporter, Wall Street Journal reporter, is still in jail in Russia.
In Russia, yeah. And Trump, so that's one of the things that Trump claimed was he wins in November. Before he's even back in the White House, he'll have people released.
We'll see.
What do you think?
We'll
think
see.
That's possible?
I think Trump's exaggerating again, which he does, which is all right because he can back it up for the most part.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think he will get him out eventually.
I think he'll get him out. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be before he's president. It might be.
I'd be surprised.
I'd be surprised too. Remains received from North Korea consistent with being U.S. service members, Pentagon says. You know,
when we got our...
Yep, we got our soldiers back from North Korea. That was massive, dude.
Uh-huh.
That was huge.
And why couldn't any other president do that?
Exactly. I mean, this has obviously been an ongoing problem since the Korean War in the 50s. So 60 years, they've been trying to get our service members' remains back. Trump was the only one who could do it. And what did he get? A short blurb. Like, really, it's disturbing and mind-blowing at the same time, the level of hate they had for this man. And why? Why did they have such hate for him? Now we're finding out why, because they're all connected. All of these newspapers, all of these television, they're all connected.
And he's not part of their club.
He's not part of the club. Exactly. He's not doing what they want him to do.
He's looking out for we the people.
Right. White House Trump administration supports decades-old ban on homemade 3D printed guns. No, shall not be infringed. It's very, very simple. And I will say, Trump failed when it came to the Second Amendment, in my opinion. Did he fail less than other presidents? Maybe. But he failed us.
He did the bump stock
He did
ban
the bump stock ban. He extended the 3D printed gun ban, or tried. The courts ruled that unconstitutional.
Is that what happened?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's why you can go right now and download a blueprint for a 3D printed firearm. They don't work very well. Now, I will say this, now that they're getting 3D printers that use better materials, they're starting to become something that's feasible, right? But the old plastic 3D printers,
no,
they don't hold up. They're actually quite dangerous to use. But the new ones who use, it's like, I don't know what to call it, but it's basically metal, right? But it's a very, very, very strong kind of a I don't know, like a plastic metal infusion. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't mess with 3D printers, but the reading that I've done, it's now feasible to 3D print firearms. Whether you do that or not, that's on you. I don't do it because I don't have a 3D printer. But if somebody wants to give me one, I'll test them and I'll let you guys know. By all means, hit me up. Trump signed 3 bills affecting Native Americans. Here's what they do. And overall, it was just making things better for them, helping with alcoholism, helping with, I'm going to tell you, dude, alcoholism is a huge problem in the Native American communities. Massive, massive problem. Lack of job opportunities, institutional, not racism, but the way that, because they're a separate country. Native American lands are their own country. But interestingly enough, the way that the United States set it up, every single nation is surrounded by the U.S. There's no, like, they don't have a direct border with Canada or Mexico. Was that intentional?
That's what I thought.
Trump signs law making cruelty to animals a federal crime. Let's talk about that briefly. I know we're kind of getting long, but let's talk about that. Do you think that cruelty to animals should be a federal crime?
I don't know if because it really should be more of a state crime, because it doesn't say anything in the Constitution about it being. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. So here's my kind of weird, twisted take on it, right? I understand why he made it a federal crime, to allow federal agencies to prosecute, because often states are just letting it go, right? We have seen consistent overreach from our government, right? There's countless examples. That said, right, I do believe that cruelty to animals should be a prosecutable offense. And if a prosecutor is choosing not to prosecute, then I don't hate the fact that it's possible now to go after them federally. But at the same time, I acknowledge we need to start rolling some of this bull back, like most of it. Trump signed 2 executive orders, 3 proclamations against human trafficking. Now, that's interesting because it seems like a whole lot of what the Democrats are against when it comes to the Trump stuff. Let's put it this way. Okay. I'm gonna dive in a little bit to something that's very controversial, right? The Q thing. Okay. Trump was asked point blank about it. And what did he say? Well, they're against hurting kids. That sounds like a good thing to me. I'm paraphrasing. You can look it up. But interestingly enough, now I want to be very clear. I did a Vice interview on that very thing, and they chose not to air a single second of my interview. Why? Because I was very reasoned and intelligent and relied on facts and evidence versus whatever, right? Some of the people take this thing and they run with it, and they believe anything and everything that other people say. I mean, the theories range quite widely into some pretty weird stuff.
Uh-huh.
That said, because it's important that I give that, right? That said, in the actual posts themselves, there are many, many claims, but all of them that I found had a degree of evidence associated with them. I don't think it's a bad thing to be against human trafficking.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Trump spent a significant portion of his time in the White House fighting human trafficking.
He did.
More so than I believe any other president in history.
I agree with that.
So why, when someone is so interested in curbing or attacking human trafficking, would so many people who allegedly care about everyone be against him? It's a lot of questions. A whole lot of questions. But moving on, Trump officially legalizes industrial hemp. Very, very good thing. That was huge. Our farmers around here can now grow industrial hemp, and the uses are
there's a lot
of uses for that stuff. Trump signs bill requiring airports to provide spaces for nursing mothers. Interesting. I don't hate that.
No.
Low-wage workers are getting bigger raises than bosses. Good. Trump signs Save Our Seas Act to boost cleanup efforts in world's oceans. I don't remember him getting any praise for that. Trump rolls out national plan to address veteran suicides. At least he tried something, man. 2.1 million federal employees to get paid parental leave for the first time. So let's talk about that real quick. How do you feel about maternal or paternal leave?
I don't think it should be required, but it should be like something that businesses could propose if they wanted it on their own. But
the problem is that's been that way. They've been able to propose it, right? They don't. Here's the thing, right? I don't hate the idea of maternity leave or
I don't either.
Paternity leave, right? I don't hate the idea. However, I don't think that other employees should have to pay for that. In other words, they shouldn't be able to use the package that includes maternity leave as a reason to reduce the pay of other employees, right? That said, we know how it works.
If I remember right, Trump's proposal for that was that it was going to come out of like injury if somebody got hurt on the job.
Yeah, the work comp.
That's right.
Which I think is a good idea. That part I was in favor of. 2019 holiday shopping season sees record sales under Trump economy. I don't know if you guys remember, but 2019 was booming. The economy was the greatest it had ever been.
And then COVID hit and they shut everything down.
Yeah, it's almost like the timing was planned. I'm not saying it was. Calm down, you two. But there are some interesting coincidences there, aren't there? There really are. Post-Katrina debt cleared for 4 Southern colleges. Trump opens up federal dollars for private school vouchers amid pandemic. Now, I do think that was a good idea. Trump signs bill ensuring 9/11 Victims Fund will never run out of money. I will say it's interesting. They can make sure that the 9/11 fund never runs out of money, but Social Security is a problem. Maybe if the Democrats stopped taking it, the money there, we wouldn't have that problem. Oh, the right to try. You guys remember the right to try legislation? Phenomenal. Phenomenal legislation.
Came from Indiana.
Yep. Trump signs law to reduce robocalls, though they won't end.
I get them all the time now.
I do too now. Funny how, because I will say the number of robocalls that I got went way down for a while. And then, Resident Ice Cream got in, and all of a sudden, Trump meets Kim Jong-un, becomes first sitting U.S. president to step into North Korea. That was a historic moment. And all the left kept saying is he's going to do World War III. Chicago soldier killed in Korean War will be finally laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery 67 years after he died and his remains went missing. That's one of, I think, the greatest things that came out of the Trump presidency. Because imagine like your dad, your grandpa, your whoever, right, has been missing your whole life. And they finally get his remains back in order to give him a proper burial at Arlington. That's huge, man. For all the other stuff that Trump did or didn't do, that was phenomenal. Absolutely incredible that he got that done, and he got no credit for it.
Nope.
Trump has set economic growth on fire. Here's how he did it. Trump's wall. How much has been built during his term? And that's it. The Trump legacy. I will say this. I have had my issues with DJT and the stuff that he did, like the bump stock ban. There's other stuff. But overall, I think he was a great president.
He got 3 Supreme Court justices too.
Right. Plus all the other, like how many judges did he appoint during his term?
I want to say at least.
Let's see.
If I had to guess, 150.
I think it's way more than that.
I think he had 150 confirmed.
Let's see. Okay, so it says here, this is Donald Trump here. Let me show you guys. Donald Trump leaves the White House having appointed more than 200 judges in the federal bench, including nearly as many powerful federal appeals court judges in 4 years as Barack Obama appointed in 8. Now, again, how did that come about? Because these people intentionally left these positions blank so that Hillary could appoint and destroy the justice system. Imagine if Hillary had been able to appoint over 200 judges.
Biden has appointed nearly 200 now.
Oh, God.
And they're coming up with, and also the winner of this election, they're creating a new federal bench for the next president to appoint more people. So we'll have that too.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out.
I got the exact number confirmed.
Oh, how many?
He has 234.
Was the total from
confirmed
from Trump or Biden?
Oh, for Trump.
For Trump, okay.
For Biden,
this says 226.
What, for Trump?
Yeah.
Biden got
interesting
197 of his 241.
Interesting. Anyway, I do believe that was one of the most important legacy moves by the Trump administration and the Supreme Court justices.
And he could have never got that done without Mitch McConnell. I know I have my problems with Mitch McConnell too.
No, I know.
But he deserves a little bit of credit.
Well, he deserves a little less hate. How about that?
He needs to retire. I'll give you that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think this will be his last term.
We'll see, man. Every time I think one of these dried up husks of an individual need to disappear,
at least
they seem to cling on.
At least he won't be majority leader anymore after this year.
I mean,
we're to have a new majority leader finally.
Yeah,
for Republicans.
Yeah, they're going to get somebody else. So we'll see. We'll see. There's a whole lot of interesting things happening right now, I believe. We're gonna wrap this up kind of, like really quickly. But
okay.
One of the things that is happening, and it has to do with Donald J. Trump, is this Project 2025. Have you heard of this?
I have.
So I thought that Trump was involved with
I did as well.
Yeah. But it turns out he's not, or at least that's the claim.
I need to research this Project 2025 more. We could maybe do a show in the future.
I think we should, as to exactly what it is, because there are some very interesting Twitter posts about it. And the only reason I even mention that is because I was of the opinion that Project 2025 was a positive thing associated with Trump, and it was essentially the foundation of what they call Project 47 or something 47.
That's what
that's what I thought, right?
So too.
Not exactly. Let me show you why. Let me find it. Here it is. Okay. Now this is from Ariel. That's less important than what he's talking about. But the Agenda 47, that's what it is. Agenda 47 is the one that Donald Trump himself has said, this is what I'm doing when I return to the White House. It includes border security, law and order, economic policies, energy independence, parental rights, national security, election integrity, right to life, confronting China, addressing the opioid crisis, protecting gun rights, breaking up the administrative state, opposing ESG and woke capital, reforming higher education, etc. Now, the Heritage Foundation, which is where this Project 2025 comes from, according to this tweet, the Heritage Foundation hired Mike Pence, who stated 2020 was not rigged. That should tell you everything you need to know. The H Foundation does not want D. Trump to win re-election. Nick Fuentes was another person pushing this nonsense. Do you know who Nick Fuentes is?
I do not.
Okay. He's a influencer, right? But he's a like a white Christian nationalist or like a white supremacist. I don't know for sure. I don't watch the guy, but I've seen some of his clips, rants, whatever. I know this, right? So Trump had met with Fuentes at one point, right? Do you know who Milo Yiannopoulos is?
I know who that is.
Okay, so Milo, I guess, made the introduction between Trump and this Nick guy, right? Shortly after that meeting, the press went wild and said, you know, Donald Trump's meeting with a national a white supremacist.
That.
Yeah, that's who they were talking about. Okay. Again, I don't know Nick Fuentes. I don't watch him, but that's been the spin, right?
That's what you heard.
That's what I heard, right? It says, now he is trying to spin it as if Trump is disavowing American first policies in general. But this should be of no surprise to any of you, as I have shown you who he works for. He is a closet homosexual who claims he is 5'8" or 5'9", but is actually 5'6". Okay. It goes on, but here's the important thing. Trump himself on Truth Social said, I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Let me show you why that's important. That was not the right one. Okay, hold on. I could have sworn it was linked. Anyway, I looked. He must have deleted it because there was another tweet that actually showed the Heritage, not the Heritage Foundation, but Project 2025. And they made all these claims that the people basically in the RNC now are all anti-Trumpers. Let me see if I, real briefly, let me see if I can find it, because it was very interesting. Interesting. Wait. Okay, so now, interestingly enough, this is okay. I found there. It's PRJCT 2025. Project 2025 spokesperson. Dude, it's okay to say spokesman. We know what you mean. It doesn't have to be a man that's like mailman. You can be a woman mailman. It's just mailman. Stop it. Stop it with the nonsense.
Tired of political correctness too.
Quote, as we've been saying for more than 2 years now, Project 2025 does not speak for any candidate or campaign. I don't remember them actually saying that. Mm-hmm. Because as a matter of fact, I followed their website link when they were looking for people to get involved in the Trump White House.
So that's what I thought too.
Allegedly, they were setting up transition people.
Isn't that weird?
Go ahead.
That's really weird.
Yeah, we are a coalition of more than 110 conservative groups advocating policy and personnel recommendations for the next conservative president. Oh, wait, I remember. Hold on. Okay, hold on. It wasn't them. It was something else. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay, here it is. I found it. Sorry. All right. Have you guys heard of George Magazine?
No.
George Magazine was owned by JFK Jr.
Okay.
He set it up as a political magazine to kind of keep track. And there's some wild stuff. That's not what I'm going to talk about. Like there's some really weird stuff with that. But this is more pertinent. Let me show you why. If you go to their Twitter, right, George News, it's at the George HQ. Now, this is interesting here. Let me find it. Now, we'll just start up here. So it says here, attention Trump supporters. We have a critical situation at the RNC. La Civita C has been hiring vocal anti-Trumpers into key roles for the president's reelection. This includes Charlie Spies, I don't know how you say his name, S-P-I-E-S, that's Spies to me, but an election fraud denier as RNC chief counsel overseeing election integrity. Spies has since been fired twice by the president, but the damage may already be done. That's an interesting claim. The whole thing is very interesting. It goes on. Despite Spies' termination, there is still no election integrity program at the RNC. For those of you who don't know, RNC is Republican National Committee. That's the national version of your county Republican Party.
Or state
Republican Party. The chief counsel role remains vacant, and Spies has been put on contract. We need a true Trump loyalist like Paul Dan, Stuart McComas, Bill McGinley, or Jesse Binnall in this critical position. 3, La Civita is creating a false image of Trump loyalty. he leaked a fake story to the Washington Post about a bloodbath at the RNC, which was entirely fictitious. In reality, only a few people were fired, and anti-Trumpers were brought in to replace them. Don't be fooled by this deception. Now, my understanding, before I go on, my understanding was that Savita was handpicked by Trump to lead the RNC.
He was.
That's what I thought. So let's look this guy up. Chris LaSavita. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about this guy. Why not? Christopher Joseph LaSavita, born 1966, an American political consultant, partner in FP1 Strategies, a national public affairs and campaign firm. LaSavita is currently a senior advisor to Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. LaSavita is often mentioned for his role as media advisor to the Swift Boat Veterans, an independent expenditure group credited with a significant impact on the 2004 presidential election. You got something you want to say?
I knew that. I've heard of his name before, but I didn't know where.
Okay, so you're familiar with the Swift Boat Veterans, right?
Yep.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Okay, when it was John Kerry versus President Bush in 2004.
Yeah. Bush v.
Kerry.
These
people came up and just talked about how bad John Kerry how bad of a person he was in Vietnam.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
But it has nothing to do with today's.
Right. Since 2004, that's he has been president of the firm Advancing Strategies LLC. He was formerly with Crosslink Strategy, a conservative lobbying and political consulting firm founded by former John McCain advisor Terry Nelson, a founding partner of FP1 as well. Now, why does that matter? Well, John McCain was not a Trump fan.
No.
Trump was not a McCain fan.
They didn't like each other before Trump got into politics.
Right. Once Trump got in, oh my goodness. Now, we can argue whether that was warranted or not. That's a whole other story.
Trump shouldn't have said what
it's irrelevant. Here's the thing, right? I'm just going to say this and then we'll move on.
Okay.
I have seen some very disturbing pictures of John McCain with certain people. Based on those pictures, assuming those pictures are accurate and not doctored, he deserves everything Trump said about him. And worse.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
So it talks about his early life and education, early career. Okay, active in Republican politics following his Gulf War service, did field work for George F. Allen in Central Virginia during his 91 congressional campaign.
Oh.
Okay.
George Allen.
67th governor of Virginia.
And he was a U.S. senator.
And a senator from 01 to 07. Okay. When he ran for governor in 1993, LaSavita organized in the Richmond area, South Side and Central, then appointed to serve as Assistant Secretary of Administration. As an Assistant Secretary. He left state service in 95 to help run Allen's Political Action Committee, assisting legislative races that year, wherein the GOP captured a tie in the state Senate. LaSavita was named executive director of the state Republican Party in 1996 after Allen's allies won control of the RPV. LaSavita ran the state party organization as Jim Gilmore succeeded Allen as governor in 97, acting as overseer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So he actually did run the state GOP in Virginia previously. Interesting. Okay. I'd be interested to see if any of you guys know, I'd be interested to see what he accomplished while he was the head guy of the Virginia GOP. 1996. Okay. LaSavita and former gubernatorial, blah, 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 successful campaign. Okay. In 2001, LaSavita was drafted in the final 2 months to shore up the losing campaign of Republican Attorney General Mark Earley for governor against Democrat Mark Warner. As Fred Barnes wrote, Early wasted the summer and didn't find a message until September, after party officials dispatched Chris LaCivita, the political director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, to run his campaign. The message, it turns out, is a handy perennial for Republicans: taxes. Early, down by 13 points in midsummer, closed the gap late in the campaign, but eventually lost by 5 points, 52 to 47 to Warner. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so during the 2002 midterm elections, LaCivita served as the political director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee under the chairmanship of Senator Bill Frist. That November, the GOP scored a net gain of 2 Senate seats, recapturing control of the upper. Okay, basically, this guy's been heavily involved. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. While at the this is the interesting stuff. While at the NRSC, LaCivita was the direct supervisor of James Tobin, another former employee of the DCI group. In 2005, Tobin was sentenced to 10 months in federal prison for his role in the 2002 New Hampshire phone jamming scandal. What is that? Involved the use of a telemarketing firm hired by that state's Republican Party for election tampering. The tampering involved using a call center to jam the phone lines of a get out the vote. Wow.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know. That is, number one, really? Really? Anyway, okay. Oh, by the way, though, Tobin's conviction was overturned on appeal. Okay, so accusations were made. He was interesting. So this says here, Democrats who sought testimony from LaCivita for a civil suit tied to the same incident recently settled that civil suit out of court. And following sentence, Tobin's conviction was overturned on appeal.
We're gonna have to do a show on Project 2025.
Yeah, because I'm actually very interested in how this guy is connected to Trump and why Trump would want him in charge, because there is a lot. Anyway, we're going to get to that. I just want to finish this real quick and then we'll end it. LaCivita is operating. Oh, instead of focusing on the campaign, now this is according to this, LaCivita is spending more time sniping at Trump loyalists and leaking private conversations to the Washington Post. This behavior is unacceptable and undermines our efforts to re-elect President Trump. Loyalty matters. The RNC under LaCivita is hiring inexperienced individuals in their 20s to run election integrity in key battleground states, while skipping over seasoned Trump loyalists from 2015. We need proven patriots in these roles, not greenhorns. During LaCivita's appearance on Mitch McConnell's Ruthless podcast, did you know Mitch McConnell had a podcast?
I did not.
I didn't either.
I don't.
Apparently he has one, and it's called Ruthless. I thought it'd be called Toothless or Brainless, because that's a better description. He praised Never Trump's architect. Okay, so listen to this. During LaCivita's appearance on Mitch McConnell's Ruthless podcast.
I didn't know he had a.
I didn't know he did either. I don't think I could stand to listen to him for that long. He praised Never Trump architect John Lerner and former Pence COS Mark Short, who testified against President Trump during the January 6th committee hearings. Short was even banned from the White House by Trump himself. Now that is interesting. I would be interested in a clip of that if you guys have it. LaCivita has a long history of working closely with Mitch McConnell's former chief of staff and current chief strategist, Josh Holmes, and RFK's current strategist, Doug Stafford. This raises speculation about an inside job to prevent Trump from reaching 270 electoral votes. It goes on, but basically it's talking about LaCivita not being loyal to Trump, which If that's the case, then I greatly, greatly regret giving the RNC money.
Yeah.
After La Savita took over, I figured, okay, he's a Trump pick. Trump's going to remake the RNC, because prior to that, man, the last time I gave to the RNC was in 2016 when Trump ran.
But I don't think he's the chair, because the chair is a guy named Michael. Hold on.
Then who is La Savita?
That's what I was. It's Michael Watley.
Because according to this,
it's Michael Watley. He's not the chair, Chris. You want me to find out what he is exactly?
It just says he's a political consultant.
Christopher
Joseph La Savita. Here, I'll put it in the private chat. Well, you probably won't. Civita.
It's Michael Watley.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm wondering where this La Savita thing comes from regarding the RNC, because that's what I thought. Michael Watley he's a Trump guy.
Oh yeah, Michael Watley's been
with Trump for years, right?
And then Trump's daughter-in-law is the co-chair, like the vice chair.
Yeah, Laura Trump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that. What? I'm like, wait a minute, what? Okay, so who then is this La Savita guy that they're talking about, and what is his connection?
According to this, he was just a Trump advisor.
GOP political strategist. This is his actual Twitter, La Savita. GOP political strategist, combat wounded Marine, Pittsburgh native.
I think he was just an advisor for Trump. I don't think he's at the RNC.
Interesting.
Or he could be just like a member of the RNC, maybe. But I don't think he's even that.
I don't know. It's very, very weird. Anyway, we've been on here long enough.
All right.
I think we had a good show. There's a lot, man. To kind of summarize, Trump is not perfect.
Nope.
He's a man like we all are. He's a human being. He makes mistakes.
But I think he's trying to be the best for America.
I do too. I think that he's doing the very best that he can. And I think as president, he did the very best that he could, given the level of deception, the level of swamp, the level of hatred that he was working against. It's amazing that he got anything accomplished.
And they don't want him back there no matter what.
No. What's interesting is I would say they are far more terrified of Trump winning this election than they were 2016.
Because he knows what to expect now.
He's clued in now. He knows, I think he's prepared for their BS this time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was our 300th uploaded episode, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know it went kind of long, but there was a lot. I mean, it's 4 years, man. We had a lot of stuff to cover, and we're gonna do a dive into Project 2025.
I like that idea.
I think it would be enlightening to see exactly what's going on, because a lot of these so-called like programs, right? Here's one example: the Lincoln Project. You heard of those guys?
I have.
Disgusting individuals. If you look into the heads of them, they've been convicted of some very disgusting things.
They have. But
yet they keep getting press, they keep getting money, they keep getting pushed by lefties and Trump-hating sycophants. It's disgusting.
It is.
Is this more of it? Is Project 2025 actually an anti-Trump front?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not making any claims. What I am saying, though, is we're definitely going to do some digging and see what we can find, because they're making some wild claims. And that's the other thing, right? So George used to be owned by JFK, right? JFK Jr. Not sure who owns it now, but they're making some pretty wild claims on their Twitter. And I'd be interested to see where their loyalties actually lie. So we'll see. We'll be back again very soon. Just as an update, guys, on my buddy Jim. So he had gotten into an accident on his bike. Some idiot pulled out in front of him. They're totaling his motorcycle. So it sucks. He's also having to attend physical therapy, which is why we haven't had our coffee breaks on Wednesdays recently, the last couple of weeks. We're trying to figure out another day and time, or if he's going to be able to resume on Wednesdays. Right now, his physical therapy ordered from his doctor is kind of hit and miss. It's interfering with the schedule, but we're going to see what we can do. Hopefully we'll be able to get it sorted for you guys, because we got some really good stuff coming up, I think, discussion wise. That aside, do you have any idea when the next time your schedule? Okay, we will inform you guys. Don't worry, I got plenty of content that we've recorded, and we'll be able to keep you guys informed. We had a video earlier today that we put out that I think is pretty fascinating. Check it out if you haven't already. With that, hope you have a great evening. Appreciate you spending the time with us. God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.